After a late loss on Sunday Night Football, the Steelers hit the road for another AFC matchup from beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada, where the Raiders play host for a 4 o'clock kickoff. We have the latest on the injuries and insights coming into this game. You're watching Steelers Kickoff right here live on KDKA TV.
Welcome to BetMGM Steelers Kickoff.
Oh yeah, Viva Las Vegas, site of this afternoon's matchup for the Steelers and the Raiders, and you're looking at the beautiful fountains at Bellagio. This is the second year in a row that they will meet, and you can watch it all coming up later today right here on KDKA. Welcome inside our KDK studios in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm Bob Pompeani, flanked as always by our quarterback of the program, Mr. Charlie Batch is here, and we'll talk a lot about this game as we move along. Rich Walsh, Gerry Dulac will be along here shortly, but Charlie, last week, Steelers dropped a close one in the final seconds. Cowboys scored a touchdown. Your experience as a player, is it easier to lose a close game or a blowout game? Which, they're probably all tough, but which is easier for you?
They're a blowout, of course. If you're one of those games, you're just like, the game is getting out of control, you're throwing in the white towel. But when you have a chance to win the game at the end with your defense on the field, that is tough, and that is emotional all around because you had a chance to win, and unfortunately it didn't happen.
And we'll talk about why it didn't happen coming up, but the story of the past couple of weeks has been injuries on both sides of the football. For the Steelers, it's been safe to say they've been hit very hard by these injuries, but they got some unexpected good news as this week unfolded on the south side. The lone bright spot is Jaylen Warren, who was doubtful to start the week. Mike Tomlin then designated him as questionable Friday afternoon. By Saturday, the designation was completely gone, and he is scheduled to play today. And there are a number of key players on the shelf at the current moment here, including running back Cordero Patterson. The outside linebacker room has really taken some major hits without the services of Alex Highsmith and now Nick Herbig, and even more, DeMarvin Leal is out for the season, placed on IR the other day. Charlie, depth always important, especially in times like these, but how do you feel about the backups, the next guy up?
Yeah, they got a great boost with Jaylen Warren coming back with Patterson being out right there with the ankle injury. But the one thing that concerns me, your top three, or really second to fourth pass rushers right now are ultimately on the IR, and they can't play right now. I wouldn't say on the IR because that's obviously games missed. But when you have those guys, who is going to step up right now? They're pulling off the practice squad. You're adding people to the roster. We just don't know, and I wish I had a better answer for you, Bob.
Ade and Echo, those two guys you never really heard of, but you'll hear about them today because they're going to have to play. Without Herbig and Highsmith, TJ Watt will surely get even more attention than he normally does. So do you think they would ever consider him moving him around to make it more difficult for the Raiders to diagnose, or blitz more in an effort to get pressure on the quarterback like Aiden O'Connell?
Yeah, first and second down is tough to really move him around, but if they know they can get the Raiders in those third and long situations, then you can start bringing those packages in and allowing TJ to kind of float a little bit and pick where his best pass rushing ability is going to happen. So it's going to be critical for somebody to step up because you know the attention always is on TJ Watt, but with the injuries happening, you know that is a glaring issue right now for the Steelers moving forward.
Got to figure out a way here, and for some added insight on the Steelers injury situation, we head now to the desert. Rich Walsh standing by the Post-Gazette and our Steelers insider, Gerry Dulac. Guys, take it away.
All right, guys, well, it's sunny here in Sin City. It's about 70 degrees right now. It's supposed to hit 91, but the good thing is we'll be inside for today's game. And today's game will feature, an outside linebacker position for the Steelers that's been decimated by injuries. No Alex Highsmith, no Nick Herbig, DeMarvin Leal on IR. So it looks like it's going to be Jeremiah Moon to start and a couple other guys to back him up.
Yeah, Rich, and DeMarvin Leal's likely gone for the season, too, with that neck injury. So Jeremiah Moon is going to get the start. They just added him to the roster last week, and then they have a couple other guys, Adi and Eku, who are going to spot in there as much as they can. But when you lose three of your top four outside linebackers, obviously that's a problem for that position. You have TJ Watt, and what that allows the Raiders to do is put even more attention on Watt to make sure he doesn't disrupt the game.
All right, speaking of attention, let's go from the outside to the inside linebacker position. I mean, one of the key signings this offseason was Patrick Queen. He was supposed to be a star. Has he really lived up to the hype, do you think? Are coaches satisfied with what he's been doing so far?
Rich, I could tell you the coaches are more than satisfied with how he's playing. You see how fast he is out there, how much of the field he covers. I understand a lot of the fans, I guess they're expecting forced fumbles and some interceptions and things like that. We haven't seen that, but then we haven't seen that from Minkah Fitzpatrick either. But the coaches are totally pleased with Patrick Queen, and I think those plays will come. It's just taking him a while, not to get acclimated to the defense, but to the other players around him.
All right, let's switch sides of the ball to the offense. Everyone wants to see, all Steelers fans want to see, is Roman Wilson play. Looks like he potentially will play in today's game. What would he add to this offensive passing attack?
Well, Rich, let's keep in mind that Roman Wilson is not Malik Neighbors. I mean, he was a third-round pick. I think you might see him get a few snaps today. But to expect a lot from him, I think, is being a little naive, because when you miss all of training camp like that, and he got hurt the first day of pads, that puts him way behind. And I'm sure they'll have a few plays, a few formations for him that are simple, but I wouldn't expect to see him out there a lot, and I wouldn't expect to see him get targeted a ton either. I think that's being, those expectations aren't exactly real.
Yeah, no matter how it happens or who's playing receiver, the Steelers need to get this passing attack going, guys.
And you need to get the sunblock going over there. That's definitely shining on the foreheads, gentlemen. Thank you. It's now time for Charlie's weekly quarterback analysis, brought to you, as always, by Cleveland Brothers. And Fields did not have a great game last week, in my opinion. Part of that was missing open receivers at times, not going through the progressions. How important is it for Justin Fields to hit those things and understand those guys are open, the guys he's missing so far?
Yeah, he did miss some easy throws, and I think when you start off here watching Connor Hayward here, he's supposed to make this throw, but if you go back and watch it, it's critical. Broderick Jones misses his tackle, and it forces pressure on Justin Fields to not allow him to set his feet and make that throw. And those are three things that you just have to happen. Protection has to go, and ultimately that will help Justin Fields moving forward.
I thought Hayward could have gotten that reception. It was a good pass on that instance. Russell Wilson, practiced for as a full participant for the first time all season this week. Is there any chance to see him today, or what circumstances would have to happen for him to get in the game?
Yeah, there is a chance to happen. If this offense is stagnant and they can't move the football, then, yeah, you now have that option, which you didn't have in the past right now. But this is something that we're going to learn from Justin Fields. How can he respond from a loss? He didn't do that against the Cowboys. He has another opportunity. But now when you now have to look over your shoulder and worry about making a mistake, that now challenges your mental aspect, and we want to see whether he can adjust to that moving forward.
We're just getting started here on Steelers Kickoff. Coming up next, Rich Walsh talks to one of the new faces on the Steeler backfield with an interesting backstory. That's next.
Welcome back to BetMGM Steelers Kickoff.
All right, welcome back to Steelers Kickoff, everyone. As we mentioned at the start of this show, injuries have really hurt the Steelers in some key positions, but that also, it opens the door for some of the practice squad members who've worked hard in the preseason to remain with this organization. Rich Walsh spoke to one of those players earlier this week, didn't you, Rich?
Yeah, key positions like running back, Bob. Jaylen Warren, the good news is he'll be back and he will play in today's game. But there's another running back that has impressed these coaches, Aaron Champlin. And he's taken a unique path to the NFL. He went to Harvard, so he's literally the smartest guy in the room.
Why Harvard? Why did you pick Harvard out of high school?
Yeah, my parents have always been academic, big on academics with me. So when my recruiting coach said I can get into the Ivy Leagues, I was like, let me try it. And then after my official visit there, I was like, yeah, I got to go here. I mean, I don't know anybody else that's ever been to Harvard at the time. So I was like, it's like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
So what was life like at Harvard being a student athlete?
Yeah, it was difficult. It's a lot of time consuming. Because, you're balancing, the rigorous academics and then also, trying to pursue a fruitful football career. So, I mean, the good thing is, we got a whole bunch of people on the team that's doing it with you. So, made it a little easier. We're all staying up late doing homework and that good stuff and also watching film. So, I feel like Harvard, we only seen it in the movies. Like, nobody's ever actually seen or been there. So, me going there, I hope and make it feel touchable to, the people where I'm from. So.
Did you ever have dreams of playing in the NFL when you were in high school?
Yeah, for sure, 100%. I mean, that was like, besides obviously getting a degree, like that was like the goal to get to the NFL. And, choosing Harvard, I know it would be more difficult to get here, but, what's life without challenges? So
this is a big opportunity. Obviously, you were teaching, right? You got a phone call and you had a job doing something else.
After, a month or 2 months, you don't get a call, life keeps going. So, still got to pay the bills. We're still working out with a trainer and I had to pay that bill. So, hey, you got to do what you got to do sometimes,
Yeah, you definitely do. Now it's time to bring in Gerry Dulac. Now Champlin will see some carries after Warren and Harris. But one guy I think they need back in this lineup is Cordero Patterson, who's been pretty good. Check out these stats. In limited action this year, Patterson has vastly outperformed Najee Harris. Do you think he merits more carries when he is healthy, Gerry?
You know, Rich, Arthur Smith really likes Cordero Patterson. That's why they brought him here. I don't know how many more carries he's going to get as long as Jaylen Warren is healthy, but there's no question he merits playing time. You see how fast he hits the hole. He goes right where he's supposed to go, and it's no coincidence that his yards per carry is much better than Najee Harris's.
Yeah, it could be a couple more weeks for Cordero Patterson, but the one thing this guy does is he provides a spark to the offense, guys.
Yeah, and they need more of that, no question. All right, thank you, gentlemen. Charlie, the Steelers have made some, I would say, rather conservative play calls this season, specifically running the ball. Last week, 3rd and 8 on their first drive, almost settling for a field goal. Do you think they've been too conservative in that passing
I
game?
definitely would scratch my head when that call was made in that particular circumstance. But the only answer that I could have for it is the fact that maybe he made that call based off the rain that was coming down at that particular time. So there are going to be challenges. There's always going to be questionable calls that you would like to have back, and that's the one I'm sure Arthur Smith would love to have back.
Well, coming up next, Rich is going to return with a deeper dive on today's opponents. Kind of Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. They've won some and lost some. It's all coming up from Las Vegas right here on KDKA.
Pittsburgh Steelers off to Vegas for Week 6.
I don't know if we can call it Acrisure West. We on the road, but we at home. Touchdown for the Steelers. Sure is comforting to look out and see friendly Steeler fans in the stands.
Oh, that'll be the case today at Allegiant Stadium, the home of Las Vegas, home of the Raiders. Steelers this afternoon play right here at 4:05 on KDKA. And this is really a rematch from 1 year ago in Nevada. The Steelers were in Vegas early this season, just like last year, but there are some definite new faces on each side of the football. And just like the Steelers, the Raiders are a bit banged up this week. Rich Walsh has more on today's opponent. Rich.
Hey, Bob, it's long been said that the most popular and favorite player in every NFL city is the backup quarterback. And this week here in Vegas, that is definitely the case with both fan bases and the Raiders coaching staff.
Minshew looking, throws intercepted by Surtain.
After a poor performance last Sunday in Denver, Raiders head coach Antonio Pierce announced this week he is making a change at QB. Gardner Minshew is headed to the bench, and Aiden O'Connell will get to start.
It was a quarterback battle early on. Aiden started 5 games, and at this point, I think it's best to go with Aiden going forward. Aiden's been a pro this entire time. As Gardner was a backup, as he was a backup to Gardner, he's very encouraging, very positive, brought a lot of energy, did a hell of a job for us on the scout team, and he's ready to go.
The Raiders QB situation is far from the only drama out here in the desert. All-pro wide receiver Davante Adams has demanded a trade and hasn't played since Week 3. But the Raiders do have one viable weapon on offense in rookie tight end Brock Bowers. He has 28 catches on 36 targets through the first 5 games.
Brock Bowers is a superstar. We said that. And I don't think I'm putting a label on him. I think it's real. We see it. And all he does is show up and make plays.
Defensively, the Raiders haven't been great. They gave up nearly 450 yards and 36 points to lowly Carolina. But they do have a force to be reckoned with on the edge. Max Crosby has 5 sacks and 4 starts and could certainly be a game wrecker from Justin Fields' blind side. The Steelers will also be looking at a familiar face when they break the huddle on offense. Former Steeler Robert Spillane has nearly twice as many tackles as any other player on the roster and has proven to be a ball hawk from the middle linebacker position.
So they'll need to be aware of Crosby and Spillane, but at least they won't have to deal with Gardner Minshew again, as we see in today's South College game plan. Minshew tore up the Steelers' defense last year as a starter with the Colts. He threw for 215 yards, 3 TDs, and 0 interceptions in a blowout win for Indianapolis. Now, the Raiders are also dealing with key injuries. Davante Adams is out, and their second receiver, Jacoby Myers, was downgraded to doubtful, so he won't play. So the Steelers will have to face guys like T.J. Tucker Trey Tucker, and DJ Turner. So the Steelers definitely are favorites in that position out there on defense, guys.
All right, well, they can get Ade and Echo to stop those two. Thank you, Rich. Charlie, for the second week in a row, the Steelers are now facing one of the worst defenses in the league. Take a look at the numbers here, and you can see what we're talking about. They are nearly last in points allowed, 26th in rush yards per carry. They even struggle with penalties on defense, but somehow they are 4th in the league stopping third down conversions. We said the same thing past couple of weeks about the offense struggled to cash in against. How do they take advantage against defenses like this?
Yeah, one thing you can't do is read the press clippings and think that's an automatic win in certain categories and whatnot, especially when you're struggling in the red zone offensively to score touchdowns. I'm not concerned about them moving the ball, but can they finish drives? And when you look at statistics like that, there's a huge opportunity for them here in today's game.
And somehow this team beat Baltimore in Baltimore, then lost to Carolina. So it's tough to figure week to week. Now it's time to head to New York City. James Brown is standing by. He has the latest on what's coming up today on the NFL Today CBS, which is next. JB?
Hey, Bob, thank you so much. And up next on the NFL Today, Matt Ryan reunites with an old friend. That will be Commanders head coach Dan Quinn. And Nate's guy, Kyle Brandt, taps in to show a few teams some seasonal love. Then the guys discuss your Steelers and the other squads who have decisions to make at quarterback. That's before we look ahead as your Steelers head to Las Vegas to take on the Raiders. But first, Coach's guys, Bob and Charlie, return when Steelers Kickoff continues right here on KDKA.
Steelers Kickoff is presented by Ford. The Ford F-150 is the official truck of the Pittsburgh Steelers and the best-selling truck in Pittsburgh.
Welcome back to Steelers Kickoff. One major criticism facing the Steelers over the past couple of years has been a slow starting and low point producing offense. The firing of Matt Canada and then the addition of Arthur Smith was supposed to be a welcome change, but so far things look pretty much status quo in this department. This is our Hyundai by the numbers segment, and last season Matt Canada, his offense, 280 yards of offense, scoring just under 20 a game. This, of course, was just in 10 games because he was fired mid-season. Arthur Smith, look at the numbers, under 300 yards of offense per game, slight improvement, averaging less points at 18.5. I know it's early, but this is starting to become a trend. So, Charlie, what do you do to change things up? How do they add to these totals?
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people are going to be frustrated because of what we've seen over the last 2 to 3 years. But when you look at the stats and you look at the amount of games that this offense has scored 30 points, there's only been 2 in 58 games. So this is going to be something that they have to improve upon, and they just have to get better in the red zone.
Yeah, that's the key, the red zone, making points instead of field goals here. One topic that drew a lot of attention for Mike Tomlin was called snap management during last week's game, where players, their snaps were reduced, specifically George Pickens. So what do you think about this practice, being a former player, snap management? Did you hear from it back then?
I did. But ultimately, when I was watching this game and I'm looking at the personnel packages being substituted in and out, it just didn't match up. If you talk about George Pickens being your best run blocker and he's not on the field on run downs, that lets me know there's a disconnect happening right now. All we can do is go on what Mike Tomlin has said, and he has said repeatedly it was snap management, and all we have to do is believe his word at this point.
I bet snap management improves today. I bet you they target him a lot in the first drive. We'll see how that goes. Almost out of time here on Steelers Kickoff. Here's a look at the Sphere. And I got to tell you, firsthand, that was pretty special. I was able to see the Eagles play over the weekend there, and if you get a chance, you should too. Steelers, Raiders, they're not going to be there, although you can play football in there. It's at Allegiant Stadium. We have predictions coming up next.
Welcome back to BetMGM Steelers Kickoff.
All right, welcome back. It's prediction time, so let's go out to Vegas and roll the dice with Rich and Jerry.
Well, no question in my mind, this is a prove-it-or-lose-it game for Justin Fields. This is a time where he's going to be looking over his shoulder at Russell Wilson. So if the Steelers win, he has to play well, and I think if the Steelers win this game, so does the defense. They can't come out flat, and they have to fix those communication problems that Cam Hayward and all the defensive guys were talking about. I like the Steelers 23-13, Jerry.
Yeah, Rich, this is a big game for Justin Fields if he wants to remain the starter, and the decision will be made after the game, depending on how the offense plays, depending on if they win the game. Raiders have some issues at quarterback. I like the Steelers to bounce back from their two-game losing streak. I like them 20-15.
All right, we both like the Steelers improving to 4-2, guys.
All right, Charlie, what do you say?
Yeah, I agree with Jerry and Rich there that, yes, this is a big game for Justin Fields. But when you look overall at this game, both teams are going to try to establish the run game. This is going to be a fast game. And I think the Steelers do prevail with the late touchdown as they win this game 17-9.
Yeah, I kind of liked how Justin Fields has handled blitzes, and I looked at the numbers. The Raiders blitz more than most teams. Are 5th in the league in coming after quarterbacks, and Justin Fields, while not good in Chicago, has been much improved. So I think today you're going to see not only George Pickens targeted, but George Pickens get into the end zone. The Steelers are going to win 27-23. And they need to, Charlie, because the next 2 games are also at home against sub-500 teams before the bye.
And they have a chance to win 3 in a row, knowing if they take care of business here today.
Yeah. All right, that's going to wrap it up for us. It should be a good game day for sure. This is what we got on tap for you. We got the NFL Today on CBS coming up next. A lot of interesting pieces there. Then at 4 o'clock today, it'll be the Steelers and the Raiders on KDKA. Then after the game, we asked you to switch over to KDKA Plus. We have the Extra Point Show and a special edition of the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. We take your calls. Chris Hoke and I will do that coming up at 7, 8 until 9. And then at midnight, it's the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. We'll be live with that program tonight on KDKA. And that's going to do it for us, for Rich and Jerry out in the desert, and Charlie Batch here with me in the studio. One day we'll get out to the desert together. I'm Bob Pompeani. Have a great day, everyone, and we'll see you at 4:05 for kickoff from beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada, the Steelers and the Raiders on KDKA.